Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is Joe Troyan from Pen Pal Schools. I'm excited to welcome you all to this wonderful webinar about global project-based learning for the IB Continuum. With me here today are going to be a few different educators, teachers, and IB coordinators to share their experiences. We have a few dialing in from around the world. Some need to get clearance and escape from the classroom, and so we'll be waiting for a few moments for some to join. But with me already, I see that Jalpa is here. Is that you, Jalpa?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us all the way from India. Why don't you go ahead, since we're still waiting for two others to join, why don't you please go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience. Tell everyone a bit about where you work and what your role is in the school and your connection with IB.
All right. Thank you so much. First of all, it's a pleasure that I am participating in this webinar, where I can share my experience, and also I can contribute to this Pen Pal school. Myself is Jalpa Seth from India, and I currently work with Oberoi International School. My role as in the PYP at this point is as a tech integrator. It's a little bit different than compared to the homeroom teachers or maybe the specialist teachers that they have. My role is to integrate technology and to collaborate with the homeroom teachers, also with the specialist teacher, and try to find different ways of using the technology into the curriculum. It could be related with the learning outcome. It could also be related with the specific requirements that the teacher can come up with. And also sometimes it's more about what the students' interests are in, or what they're passionate about, and we try to extend our support related with the technology. Yeah, that's what my role looks like in PYP at the point. And next year I would be joining MYP. So I'm also currently exploring more about design technology in MYP, and have kind of just associated with two or three classes in MYP right now, grade 6 and grade 7. So I'm just getting more. I'm just learning more about MYP, how it functions, and how is it aligned with PYP, MYP. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jalpa, for sharing. And I just figured out how to get my camera on. So now, hi, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. It looks like we've got a great audience of educators from all over the world looking at the comments section. A lot of comments and questions and people introducing themselves. So wonderful to see so many of you turn out. Thank you, Jalpa, for that great introduction to yourself and your work, and for joining us all the way from India. What time is it there right now?
It's 9:39.
Okay.
PM.
Well, thank you again for joining us so late in the evening. We do all appreciate it, and I'm sure educators everywhere are eager to hear more from your perspective, and I'm sure connect with you as well. Toby has joined us as well, so thank you so much for Toby. Would love for you to just introduce yourself, talk a bit about where you work, what you do, and your connection with the IB, please. I see Toby has joined, and I saw her briefly on the camera, but perhaps she is unable to hear me at the moment. Or Toby, you may be, there you are.
Sorry, I'm trying to get my class taken care of, so we're switching out teachers here.
I'm sure people are tuning in for this webinar can relate. So is now okay for you?
Yes, I am. Everything's taken care of, so we should be good to go.
Great. Well, yeah, please, we would love to just, Jalpa just introduced herself, calling in from India, where it's already 9:30 p.m. So she's got a great perspective to share, as do you. So would love to just, for you to introduce yourself, talk about where you work, your role, and your connection with the IB.
Sure. My name is Toby Klamath. My current role is IB coordinator, but I have also taught design and art for IB. Before that, I've been teaching for almost 20 years, and I've taught math, science, and social studies. So I kind of have a range of curriculum and now in leadership responsibility, being the coordinator. So we've been with IB now for about 6 years, and I have been the coordinator for 2.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much Toby for sharing that as well. We do have one more member of our panel who will hopefully be joining us. That will be Kathy will be joining us from Alabama. So hopefully Kathy Burdett will be joining us any minute now to share her perspective. But we can go ahead and get started while we wait for Kathy. We've got a bunch of great questions for you guys and an audience that is contributing more questions all the time. So lots to get through. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and do a brief introduction of how this webinar is going to run and what people can expect. So let me just figure out how to do that quickly. There we go. Back to sharing my screen. Concurrent with this webinar, we have a Twitter chat going on. So please join our interactive Twitter chat. To join, just follow @PenPalSchools, and we've got a hashtag going with some great activity already, hashtag global PBL. So please use that in all your responses so you can respond to the questions that we're asking our panelists today and weigh in and share your perspective. We'll also be tweeting out some great project-based learning resources from that PenPalSchools account. We'll be tweeting out those resources all throughout the webinar today. So follow @PenPalSchools, and there'll be lots of great things that we're sharing for you. So we're going to be talking a lot about global project-based learning. And just to talk about how this webinar is possible, we are working with Jalpa and with Toby and with Kathy, and there are a few of many educators around the world that are participating in a great global project-based learning community right now. So if you're not familiar with PenPalSchools, please check it out. This is a wonderful global community of educators all over the world working together in project-based learning, students collaborating and creating projects. And projects cover all ages and subjects, everything from race in America to robotics, poetry, and fake news, a chance for students to collaborate and work together. And you'll have a chance to connect with all of the educators that are members of our panel or are parts of PenPalSchools, and you can connect with them and work with them there. But now let's talk more broadly about global project-based learning. We have our first question. Question number 1, and again, you can answer this through our Twitter chat as well if you hashtag global PBL. Our first question is, what is global project-based learning? And kind of a follow-up question, what does global PBL look like in your classroom? So I'll open that up for the group, Jalpa or Toby, whoever wants to go first and take a stab at that question of what global project-based learning is to you and what it looks like in your classroom. Jalpa, maybe you can start us off. Would you mind answering that question for us, please?
Okay. Yeah. So being in the IB school, we kind of not have exactly like the term that we use for global project-based learning. So I'll tell you just what exactly the global project-based learning is. It's more about where the process of learning itself is offering more of engaged or authentic learning, or engagement where students are more involved, too much of critical thinking or revisiting their thinking. So it's more of a student's involvement, student agency. And when we talk about how does it look like in our classroom, I would just like to give you an example about where we are in the primary level. The students come up with a problem that I want to create something with a for let's say for bird feeder, right? So they come up with how can we design a bird feeder, and what things we have to keep in mind, like why, and maybe what are the best designs that we can make for it, or what time of the year that we can create this bird feeder. So then they come, and what are the predators and all that. We start discussing a lot about it. So basically it's more about the student interest, students agency, more about the student voice and students choice.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jalpa, for sharing that. And glad to hear student voice and student choice is something that I'm sure we're going to circle back to again and again today and forever. It's just so important to keep students engaged and make it authentic for them. Toby, your thoughts on, or if you want to react to anything that Jalpa has said, as well as thoughts on global project-based learning and what that looks like in your classroom.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Student voice, student choice, that is on my notes as well. Project-based learning is something that I've done in my curriculum for years and years. It is important to have that applied learning in the classroom. And so one of our biggest things that we wanted to make sure of is that our students understand that education is more than just inside the classroom. And so we really want those kids to think globally. And we do start out thinking locally. Many of our students never leave our area of West Texas. They're very isolated where we are. And so we start locally and then we branch out globally. And so once we begin to see that applied learning where we are, then we look out at it globally. One of our, an example is we used the robotics Pen Pal Schools activity, but then we also went a little bit further in how robotics is used to solve global and economical problems. One of the problems that we have is terrible soil erosion from big dirt storms. And so we used robotics and students came up with different ways that robotics can be used in the solving the soil erosion problem around here, and then where that could be applied globally. So we did research on where else this is a problem and looked at those different things. And so we try to apply both on the local level and on the global level. As an IB school, we feel like it's important to recognize both communities and to see where we fit in those communities.
Excellent. I love that approach and kind of taking that global lens to the work that you do. It sounds like that's really permeated every aspect of the way that you're thinking about project-based learning. Let's move along to our next question. And Jalpa, look, I'm so glad that you figured it out. I muted you while Toby was speaking because I noticed it was picking up some of your background noise, and then it didn't give me the option to unmute you. So I'm very glad that you were able to do that because I was really about to regret that. So I'm glad you're back with us and able to continue with participation here. Let's go on to our next question. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again so we can all see that question. Here we go. We are on to question number 2. How does global PBL support the IB continuum? So again, you can answer this question yourselves in the audience on Twitter if you use the hashtag #GlobalPBL. And here we're looking for, talking about specifically how this fits in with the IB continuum and other things that that you're doing in the classroom. So would love to, I don't know you've maybe touched on some of this a bit already in your first answer, but if we can talk more specifically about the requirements and the steps in the IB continuum and how the global project-based learning fits into that, that will hopefully be a very practical question for our educators out there trying to figure out how this fits and how it satisfies those requirements. So why don't we go in reverse order for this one, and we'll go with Toby first, and then we can come back to you, Jalpa.
Well, like I said, we started out with project-based learning in my curriculum long ago. I taught technology applications. And so when IB came to our school, when we brought IB into our school, it was such a natural fit because we were already doing many of these things. When we look at our state standards, they don't always cover everything when we look at project-based learning. But when we looked at criterion-based learning, so when you really look at, and of course I'm a design teacher, so design cycle is #1 in my book, from what I know. So I even though I'm an MYP coordinator, I still teach design. So that's my #1 favorite thing. But the design cycle and that criterion, when you look at your criterion-based, is all about that summative assessment. And when you look at your summative assessment, one of the things we use is the GRASPS model. I know that's very popular in IB learning, but the GRASP model just helps you define project-based learning. It's not anything special to IB specific, but it helps us develop that plan on how do you create a project-based lesson. And so that was important to me when we began to look at IB, is how do you craft a good project-based lesson? And GRASP really helped with that while looking at our criterion and our expectations for our summative. Always begin with the end in mind, and keep all of that in mind as we are backwards planning.
Great, thanks, Toby. Yeah, I love that. Starting with the end. That's something that we've heard from a lot of educators around the world. Is let students know where they're going, and then see how the pieces fit together. If you've got a lesson that you're working on, well, what's the big picture? Why are we working on this lesson? How is it going to help us create our project, or whatever the final goal is that we're creating? And it's amazing to see how much more students are more engaged when they understand the process. They see how everything fits.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. That is absolutely correct. And I will say, and I should have said this from the beginning, I was that kid who wanted to know what is this going to do when I grow up? I was that kid of, when am I going to use math in the real world? And so that was always important to me as a math teacher, of here's where you're going to use this in the real world. And I think when we look at project-based learning and global project-based learning, that brings it home for kids in that, oh, this is where I'm going to use it in the real world, because that's what they want to know, is why do I have to learn this? And when they're learning that why, then that why is what drives their learning and gives them that student voice and student choice.
All right, so we found the answer to the question that haunts every teacher out there. Why do we have to learn this? Right? So if you've got that, then we need to post that on every education blog there is. Jalpa, would love to hear from you on this question. Again, the question is, how does Global PBL support the IB Continuum? So would love to hear your perspective on this one. Oh, Jalpa, I think you're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
and I am breathing a giant sigh of relief because I thought it was my fault again.
Okay, so is it okay if I share one of the student work over here? Is it possible?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah, we would love that.
Okay, let me just try. Okay, just quickly do that. Oh, it's not allowing. Hold on. Oops. Is it? I can see everything, but screen showcase. Can you see? Can you see any student work?
Not yet. Did you try the green screen share button on the left side?
Yeah. Okay, I'll try that again. Okay. Application window. Okay, I'll try this one. Let's see. Now can you see? Is it possible?
No, unfortunately, I don't see it
I'll
yet.
just try one more time. last time and see if it is possible. Okay. Ooh,
Oh, it's working.
it's working. Okay, can you see
It's
if I move this?
it's loading now.
Okay, let's try.
Yeah, it looks like it's trying. We're being sucked into the infinite vortex of the screen within a screen at the moment, but hopefully we'll escape.
Is it because of me? I'm so sorry.
No, I think
But
it's just a slow connection. It appears to be working. I think we just need to give it one more minute.
okay, I'll just speak and then hopefully we should get to see this screen again back. Okay, so talking about how global project-based learning supports the IB continuum. Uh, Being again in primary, it is a little bit different compared to the MYP and the IB. Here we are trying to build these skills. We're trying to we are trying to do the more conceptual understanding. I'll give you one example over here. We were actually, our grade 3 students were inquiring into different biomes. And when they were inquiring into different biomes, they have this lines of inquiry. They come up with the questions, and we have used pen pal schools to collaborate with the different students across globe, and they did get an opportunity to connect with different students and also collaborate, learn different by questioning. They learned so many different perspectives. They also learned how to question so that they can understand. Other thing, when they were answering, like, it was more of interaction back and forth, so they were kind of understanding, okay, this is how I need to talk, this is how I need to respond. Also then literacy comes into place. Again, talking about a global project, students came up with this a new idea of how can I demonstrate my learning. And they did this, they used green screen technology, augmented reality, they combined together, and then they showcased it on the pen pal school, that this is how I have inquired about a certain biome and what factors are affecting the environment, and how best can I demonstrate and showcase my understanding to the world. And honestly, it was the hit project. It was in terms of where the students got the ownership, that this is my learning, this is what I wanted to inquire, and this is what I want to show my understanding in this way. I wish I could show that, but in a moment, if in case, meanwhile, I will just try if I can show you that project, how it looks and how it was impactful to the audience as well as to the other peers across grades. And yeah, so it's kind of it's not only with the academic skills, but also with the tech skills that we are looking at. So it's all together, it's holistic approach. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, something is happening with my screen. Can you hear me?
We can still hear you just fine.
Okay. Yeah.
It seemed that when you tried to share your screen with us, it kind of got frozen on. So, but perhaps you can try again. Now you were referencing, was it the Protecting the Planet topic that you were doing on pen pal schools?
It was biomes. Yes, absolutely. Yes. And this happened last year, maybe in month of November. I guess.
So for those, and perhaps you can try to share your screen again, Jalpa. For those, in case we can't, I can give a quick screen share of at least what you were working on, which is the Protecting the Planet topic on pen pal schools. So we're looking now at the syllabus at penpalschools.com. This is one of many topics that we offer, but here the essential question: are people doing enough to ensure that the next generation has a healthy planet? And students have multiple project options. They can spotlight change agents from around the world, researching people and groups who advocate for the environment, speak for the environment, which I know some of your students did, creating public service announcements to help members of their community learn about local environmental issues, leading a service project, actually getting out in the community and doing some work. And then, of course, always related to student agency, right? Student voice, student choice, let them design their own. And so if you were to join the Protecting the Planet topic, it would look something like this, where there's a series of lessons where students learn about issues such as pollinators or coral reefs and so on, endangered species. they'll have a chance to interact with peers from around the world through questions and readings about this topic. And then, of course, creating an original project, perhaps it's a Change Agent Hall of Fame or a public service announcement to demonstrate what they've learned. So this is at least the framework of what Jalpa's class was working on and how they created those projects and shared them with our community and interacted with peers from around the world. If we can figure out your screen share, I would love to be able to see what your students have created. In the meantime, we've got some great questions from the audience, including one quick one for you, Toby, that I'm dying to hear the answer. Do you work for the History Channel? We've embarrassed ourselves, haven't
Do I work for the History Channel? No. I would love to. No, I do not.
Okay, all right. Perhaps someone thought they recognized for you there.
That would be fun.
Another question we have, going back to student, it says we have student agency for PYP in our school. Does it apply for MYP and DP also? Do either of you have an answer for that one?
In reference to student agency, you're talking student voice, student choice. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm not sure, because I was kind of hoping you would know, to be honest. So if you guys aren't 100% clear on the answer to that, then we can go to the next question, which is for the panelists. And Toby, you specifically referenced this. Will we be able to see an example of a global project-based grasp sheet?
Absolutely. I can pull that up and maybe while she answers that, I definitely have a planning sheet.
Sure.
That I can make available. The great thing that we use this sheet for is, like, very, very first thing on there is the goal. The G stands for goal. And what we do is we pull in that goal ties to our objectives in reference to our criterion. So how does our statement of inquiry relate to our objectives? And that then becomes the student goal. And so I will see if I can pull that up while you are referencing something else.
And Toby, if you want to, you could even send it to Jessica, and she could tweet it out from the
Sure, I can do that.
So, I can do that. Yeah, Jessica's standing by. So,
okay.
And Jalpa, it looks like you're now able to share your screen. We can see your screen now. So why don't you take it away, and we'll follow along with you.
Okay, I'll try this. Okay, so can you see this students over here with the green screen?
Right now, we only see an email from Jessica from Pen Pal Schools.
Oh, okay, hold on.
So it could be that you're sharing only a certain window and not your entire desktop. Or
in presenting, okay. I just tried. Now possible? This one possible?
No, we're still just seeing that email, which had the link to join the webinar. I would see if you can change, instead of just sharing a specific window, maybe you can share your entire desktop. While you work on that, I'm going to move on to the next question, and we'll circle back to you. So the next question, and let me share my screen so that everyone can read the question. So here we go. Here we go. Next question. Question number 3. How does global PBL improve digital citizenship and social and emotional learning? Great question. Again, how does global PBL improve digital citizenship and social and emotional learning? If you'd like to chime in with an answer to this, again, please do so on Twitter with the hashtag #GlobalPBL. Jalpa, would you like to field this one? How does global, well, I already read it twice. Twice is enough. Would you like to answer this question for us, please?
Yes, absolutely, about the digital citizenship. It's the need of the hour, we think. At this level also, we have started implementing programs like DQ World, wherein the students enroll for a week And it's kind of interactive games that they have, and they kind of educate what are digital skills like cyberbullying, cybersecurity, about plagiarism, and it talks about those 8 skills, digital skills. It's not only for that particular time that we want our students to get to know about the digital citizenship, but throughout the year we kind of have a reinforcement in our curriculum where we try to emphasize more on the skills, because they are most of the time they are using technology, and most of the time they are collaborating with the students across globe, across nation. So we want our students to be well versed with what are the digital citizenship in terms of you being you digital natives. You need to know how to operate, be responsible use of digital. Maybe when you start creating your digital footprints, how do you have your online conduct? So we do talk about those. We do have mini lessons on digital citizenship, and also we have a kind of a mandatory. It's kind of a policy in our school where where the teachers are being asked to collaborate with the tech integrators and get more involved in terms of tech skills that our students need to know. So definitely this comes into play that we need to teach our students what is digital skills.
So your students are they're oftentimes working online in their projects, creating projects online, sharing them online. So they're getting a chance to put those skills into practice to both create and share and get feedback on their projects.
Yeah.
Excellent. And Toby, any thoughts? Oh, sorry, you've got another thing to share, Jalpa?
Yeah, I just want to share something which is which I feel at early age, when I'm talking about grade 1, grade 2, or maybe SKG. How can we teach those kids about digital skills? So we have a tool called Seesaw, and it allows our students to give to comment on that tool. Like for example, if they post something on that tool, students comment on it, and then we teach them which is the best way to give feedback in terms of what appropriate language to use and how do you comment. So this is basically teaching them online behavior with the younger kids. Yeah.
Yes, and for those of you unfamiliar with that tool, again, that's Seesaw, SEESAW. Wonderful tool. A lot of our teachers in pen pal schools have told us that they use that and often combine pen pal schools with Seesaw. So definitely a fan of that one. Toby, if you would love to hear your perspective on using global PBL for social and emotional skills and digital citizenship.
Absolutely. This is, and I totally agree with everything that Jalpa just said, because this is #1 priority right now as we head into middle school. Middle school kids, this is where they get in trouble. This is where we have issues. And so teaching them to be responsible should be very high on our priority list. I will be honest, this is one of our lacking spots in the past. And we are kind of late to the digital game. And in that, I mean, our district has been behind. We still don't allow our students to have phones and things like that. And so we tend to be a little more behind because we are way out in the middle of nowhere, a little bit on the conservative track. And so we have now discovered how important it is that these students learn good digital citizenship and how their how their actions on digital media and social media is having such an impact in their emotional skills and their emotional development. So that's one of the reasons we came to Pen Pal Schools, is so that we would have a safe environment, because that is very important to us here at our school, is to have a safe environment for students to be able to communicate with other students and learn how to interact and read other students' comments, and how to take critique and how to take feedback that they're not exactly used to. And so teaching all of those skills. I was a technology teacher before we, came to this. And back in the day of technology teaching, it was how to use a specific skill. Everybody's project looked, exactly the same. And now we have a wide array of different applications and softwares. And so it's not about teaching a skill in a software, it's about teaching responsibility, and it's about teaching those digital native students how to use it responsibly. And that is where we are in that pendulum of school teaching. We started out as teaching students how to be on a farm, and then how to be in a factory, and now we are you're going to live in a digital society. How are you going to thrive and work and thrive in that digital society? And so it's kind of a shift in our teaching and our thinking of how important these skills really are.
And that's something that we're seeing. We're working with so many schools around the world and educators around the world, and we hear it seems like every year we hear more than the previous year how social and emotional learning is becoming a priority. Not just talking the talk, but schools are devoting budget to it. They're hiring social and emotional learning directors, right? So we're seeing that as a very promising movement that's happening. For those who heard Toby talking about students working on pen pal schools and learning how to give feedback and receive feedback, that's something that we've been working a lot on and thinking a lot on. Just to give you a quick view of what that looks like on our platform, here I am actually logged into a demo student experience. This is in our World Explorer topic, where students are learning about cultures and perspectives around the world. And we have our global forum. So here's a student from Germany and a student from Croatia, students all over the world. And as you can see here, students are not only writing answers, they are commenting on one another's answers and providing feedback. And then our very popular peer review tool, where they can start kind of like social media, but then give feedback to one another as to why it's a great answer. And so a really structured way for students to think about, what is good writing, and build those social and emotional skills while they work with peers around the world. So that's a bit of color there on what Toby was referencing. Jalpa, while Toby was speaking, I did notice that you were successful in sharing some. I saw for a moment your students on the green screen. So if you're feeling good, you think you got it, we'd be happy to see it.
Yeah, sure. So shall I play it?
Let's try it. Let's try it once more. I think this is the time.
Yeah. Can you see?
Oh, not yet. I think you'll need to share it again.
Okay, I'll try that again.
Yeah. Whatever you did a minute ago while Toby was talking.
I'm just making multiple attempts, but somehow it's just going back. It's because of my Wi-Fi connection. It seems like that. It's just coming back. Oops. Okay. It did though. I'll try one more time.
Oh, you're doing the same thing every time, just sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't?
It did before, right? Yeah.
Okay, well, how about this? You work on it, and Toby will answer the next question. And if we see it come up, we'll just yell and we'll interrupt Toby mid-answer and switch over to you.
Sure.
So the next question is let me share my screen again. Here we go. So switching over to the next question. Okay, question number 5. What tips or advice do you have for other IB teachers that are new to global project-based learning? And again, you can answer this one, #GlobalPBL on Twitter. Toby, if you don't mind answering this one, and then if we'll keep an eye out if Jalpa gets her screen share worked out, we'll switch over to her real quick. But what tips do you have for teachers that are new to global project-based learning?
Well, I think great question. The number one thing when you're beginning in project-based learning is don't be afraid, number one. And number two, don't be afraid to let the kids explore. And you are going to find that some are going to go off in one direction, Other students may go off in another direction. And, you know, to be able to be flexible as a teacher for that to happen. One thing that I do, you know, I've taught 6th grade for a very, very long time. And then in the last 2 years, I've moved up to 7th and 8th as well. 6th graders, the younger they are, a little bit more leadership is needed in the direction that they're going. And so I'm sure it's that way in elementary too. You need to have a plan and a path in place. A little bit older students, you know, you really, this is where I want you to go, and then let them really take off and have that experience of leading their own learning, which is scary for a teacher. It's very scary having a plan in place. And I don't know if I'll be able to share my screen. Let's see. All right, am I shared here? Can you see my screen? Are you able to see it? I was going to show you the graphs model. Are you able to see that? Oh, I can't hear you. Were you able to see that?
Sorry, I'm muted. I can.
I was going to show you this, and what this does, this is what I sent to Jessica. And so what this enables me to do is to keep my project-based learning organized, in that here's exactly what the students are expected to do, especially when we get down into the scenario portion. And even on the second page is more specific questions that helps you lay out exactly what do I want my project, what do I want the goal to be.
Toby, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It looks like I got cued in from some of our viewers that they can't see your screen, unfortunately.
Oh, okay, that's okay. And I sent that to Jessica, and so hopefully she will. And let me undo.
Yeah, we can. Jessica can tweet that one out, and we can share with everyone.
This helps you guide your thinking, in that the goal and the role in your scenario is all specifically laid out for students, so that is clear. Clear expectations is high priority. When you are not going to do direct teaching every day, you've got to make sure that those students know where they're going to go and what they're going to do. And so that's very helpful. And so having a worksheet, a planning sheet to do that is very helpful in that role.
All right, well, great tip. Thank you, Toby. Really practical one for helping to plan, and even a resource that we'll share out on our Twitter account. So follow @PenPalSchools, and we'll send that grasp sheet out to everyone. Jalpa, do you have, now it looks like you're sharing your screen, Jalpa. I don't know if that's intentional, but do you have a tip out there for new teachers new to global project-based learning, how they can get started?
Yes, so I would like to give an advice over here. If you're starting with this global-based project, I'll give you an example of mine only. When I started with PenPal Schools, and it is a time. I mean, you need to prep up. You need a lot of time to prep up for your lessons, and also you have to educate your students in such a way that when you are collaborating, you have to give more of the perspectives, or maybe more of giving more of digital empathy. I mean, I'm talking in terms of when you try to collaborate, or when you try to do online communication, how do you behave? There are other students from a different culture, from a different countries. There are students who may not be knowing about the English, maybe not knowing about the language. There could be a barrier. Then how would you interact? All those things come in place in terms of when you start initiating this project. So you will have to keep in mind about how your students are going to behave, and what kind of a project that you're looking for. And one piece of advice is something which I would say, please tell your students to be more digital empathy, because it's more about how students behave online. That's what the advice that I would like to give.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that, Jalpa. And we got your screen is frozen on Toby. So for those confused at home, that was actually Jalpa speaking. But no problem. We heard you, and this late in the webinar, we know who you are. I think you might still be sharing your screen is the problem. Jalpa's advice there was actually related to Pen Pal Schools. So if you're planning on joining Pen Pal Schools and connecting to work with other classrooms from around the world, to have some discussions early on about empathy, about the variety of cultures and perspectives you'll be connecting with, just to show you, to kind of put that into context. Here is a map of all the schools around the world participating in Pen Pal Schools. We looked at this a little earlier, but here's a more interactive version. So your students will connect with peers from very different backgrounds and beliefs, some of whom are English language experts, some of whom are still learning the language, some of whom have maybe a similar religion and background, and some of whom very different. We're working with schools in Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan, and some schools that, like this one in Ghana, that have very different learning situations than the one that your students may be accustomed to. So absolutely, we do recommend that teachers have some discussions before they really get going and connecting with kids, to kind of take that into consideration of how they might not take things for granted, or consider another student's perspective as they share their own. Toby, it sounds like you had something that you'd like to chime in on that topic as well.
I absolutely agree, and use those moments as the teachable moment. We had a couple of instances where you can tell you're working with different grade levels of students as well on Pen Pal Schools. And so we would bring up comments and talk about how some are at different levels than we are, and may not speak the same languages that we are. And so we would display those comments, and we would talk about our answers and our choices and what we were doing. And so that was very important to do. But that's also, again, going back to our previous question of digital citizenship. What is a critique and what is not a critique? And so that was a good teaching moment on digital citizenship as well, when we looked at commenting and looking at other people's projects and answers on Pen Pal Schools.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I just got word that I was not doing a good job of allocating the screen sharing, so people could not see what I was just showing. I'm trying that again now. Here is the map of all the schools around the world that are participating in our program, all the schools that you can connect with in over 150 countries, and the diverse perspectives that you'll be connected to. And here is that school in Ghana that I was referencing a moment ago. So hopefully that came through a bit more clearly this time, and you guys got some visuals to think about